Shana Tova. One of the best moments of the high holidays each year is when we sing Avinu Malkeinu. Whether it was the first time of the season last week at Slichot, or if it's the final moments on Yom Kippur, whether it's Kenner Greenberg beautifully singing the arrangement by Max Janowski, as made famous by Barbra Streisand, or if it's the congregation communally singing and swaying along to the traditional folk melody, those moments are among those that I look forward to year in and year out. The music and the experience are haunting and powerful, and so those moments stay with us throughout the year. The text of Avinu Malkeinu is just as important. The Talmud teaches once during a drought, Rabbi Eliezer stood before the ark and recited the 24 blessings for fast days, but his prayer was not answered. Rabbi Akiva then stood before the ark and said, Avinu Malkeinu, our parent, our sovereign, Ein lanu melech ela ata, we have no ruler but you. Avinu Malkeinu, for your sake have mercy upon us. And the rain began to fall. Why was Rabbi Akiva's prayer answered but not Rabbi Eliezer's? It was the genius of Rabbi Akiva to combine two seemingly conflicting ideas. God is our ruler, and we are God's subject. God is Malkeinu, Melech, sovereign. But God is also our parent, and we are God's children. God is Avinu, Abba, Ima. So which is it? It cannot be both, and yet it is. We look to God as a ruler, a sovereign, seated on the throne pronouncing justice, and also as a loving parent in conversation with children, longing to be understood and to find forgiveness. That's the paradox of Avinu Malkeinu, one we embrace throughout the Yamim Noraim, through all the days of awe, and one that runs through so many areas of our lives as well. We live with paradoxes all the time. Days can feel long, but years short. We work hard so we can rest, but we need to rest in order so that we can work. College basketball players aren't as good as NBA players, but college basketball is infinitely more entertaining. There, I said it. Even the scientific view of our world recognizes paradox, particularly in the area of quantum mechanics, for which I don't claim to be an expert. But as it's memorably dramatized in the movie Oppenheimer, is light made up of particles or waves? Quantum mechanics says it's both. How can it be both? It can't, but it is. It's paradoxical, and yet it works. And to take it even one step further, Niels Bohr, one of the leading physicists in the development of quantum mechanics, is believed to have said that the idea came to him when his son confessed to having stolen an item from a local shop. He found that he could think of him with the love as a father and with justice as a judge, but not both at the same time. The love of a parent and the justice of a judge. Avinu Malkeinu. Paradoxes make us laugh, they make us think, but they can also break our hearts. And the paradox that weighs heaviest on our hearts right now, the one that tears at our souls and even at our communities, is Israel. It has been 718 days since we were here on Shmini Atzeret, October 7th, 2023. That morning, we only began to learn of the horrific and unspeakable acts of violence that Hamas and its supporters unleashed on Israel. We know the numbers: 1,200 people killed, 251 taken hostage in Gaza. We know the stories: families torn apart, women raped and assaulted, entire towns and communities burned, people tortured and bodies mutilated. Even now, nearly 2 years later, 48 hostages remain in Gaza. We hope and pray that about 20 of them are alive in whatever battered and brutalized conditions their bodies and spirits may be. But we know that each one of them, those still hanging to life and those who have already been lost, must be returned home. In the 2 years since that day, Israel has done what any country would do to defend its own people who were massacred in such a way. They have fought back in dark tunnels and in crowded marketplaces where they didn't know who was trying to kill them and who was trying to feed their children. In that fighting, another 460 brave young men and women gave their lives, with many more injured, in another example of the selflessness of our people. Israel has also fought on new frontiers in cyberspace through intelligence operations that seem even too far-fetched for a Netflix series, and this past summer in the skies over Iran, where Israeli planes, in an unprecedented partnership with American stealth bombers, struck the heart of Iran's nuclear program. All of this, fighting enemies who will commit any crime and launch any attack to destroy the Jewish state, fighting back against that is a source of pride. On Rosh Hashanah a few years ago, when October 7th was just another date on the calendar, I spoke about embracing Israel as a powerful country that's capable of protecting itself. And I stand by that and say again that there is so much of Israel to be proud of. We are certain of this and know it to be true. But we're also certain of so much more. That pride cannot silence pain, and security cannot shield us from suffering, and justice cannot stand without mercy. Yossi Klein Halevi, one of the most thoughtful voices in Israeli and Jewish life today, a senior fellow at the Shalom Hartman Institute, recently wrote in the Times of Israel about what it means to be an ambivalent Jew in 5786. Not someone who is uncertain, but someone who is, quote, torn between conflicting certainties. We know Israel faces a relentless campaign of lies and distortions. We know, as he writes, the outrageous accusation of genocide against Israel only diverts the world's focus from radical Islamism, the true genocidal side in this conflict. But we also know, as he writes, that something has gone very wrong in Gaza. After nearly 2 years of fighting the most brutal war in Israel's history, there has been terrible suffering, and at times lapses in our own moral standards. And while Hamas has weaponized that suffering, turning outrage itself into a tool of terror, we cannot pretend it doesn't exist. Klein Halevi reminds us morality itself has been weaponized in the service of terrorism. Hamas's greatest asset is the outraged conscience. But he insists that cannot excuse us from moral self-examination. On the contrary, preserving our moral credibility is essential for our strength. We cannot let the haters determine the inner life of the Jewish people. Most of all, Judaism demands it. Here is the paradox we face. On the high holidays, we cry out, Avinu Malkeinu, Chatanu lefanecha, we have sinned before you. We cannot say those words with integrity unless we are willing to consider where Israel too may have fallen short. Klein Halevi puts it this way: just as we need a language for defending ourselves against the lies and distortions, we need a parallel language in which we struggle with the moral dilemmas raised by this war. Both are necessary. Both belong in Jewish conversation. The danger comes from those who deny the paradox, those who insist Israel is always innocent, or those who uncritically adopt the libels of our enemies. Especially now, as we face some of the most morally complicated dilemmas in our history, those one-dimensional voices must not be allowed to determine Jewish discourse. This is the paradox that is tearing us apart. Some only see Malkeinu when they consider Israel, the powerful sovereign pronouncing justice for unspeakable crimes against our own. And others only see Avinu, the parent, endlessly merciful, overlooking the flaws of a stubborn child. How can Israel possibly embrace both? How can we? How can the Jewish community continue to stand with and advocate for Israel while also acknowledging real and heartbreaking moral questions? We must. It's paradoxical, but we must. If Avinu Malkeinu is our liturgical paradox, the Torah gives us a narrative one as well. Parshat Pinchas, the Torah portion that is read more than any other throughout the year, offers two drastically different models of responding to crises. Pinchas himself, the portion's namesake, is the prototypical zealot, someone who rushes to take justice into their own hands. When an Israelite chieftain publicly desecrates God's covenant, Pinchas takes a spear and drives it through his heart. The plague ends and Pinchas is praised. But as Dr. Michal Bitan, a spiritual leader, sociologist, and co-host of the popular podcast Wandering Jews, describes, the reward God gives Pinchas, a covenant of peace, implies that his act was a one-time necessity, not a blueprint for future leadership. The Torah seems to allow zealotry only in moments of extraordinary crisis, and then insists that this legacy be transformed into peace, not remain rooted in rage. On the other hand, just a few verses later, the daughters of Tzlafchad step forward. These 5 women, who were denied their inheritance through no fault of their own, do not grab spears or overturn the system. Instead, they approach Moses, argue their case, and change the law. The Talmud praises them, saying they were wise and virtuous. They spoke at the right moment. In Dr. Bitan's description, they are people who hold multiple commitments simultaneously to justice and stability, to change and continuity, to their particular community, and to the broader society. They believe systems can be reformed rather than requiring revolution, and they work within existing frameworks to help those systems live up to their highest ideals. If that's the mindset that was needed to impact change in the Torah, surely it can shape how we think and speak about Israel today, holding multiple commitments simultaneously to justice and to mercy, to Avinu and to Malkeinu. As Jews, as Zionists, as moderates, we need our voices to carry both impulses. We need that reflected in how we speak to each other and in how we speak to the world around us. We need that reflected in Israel's leadership, who are making these life and death decisions impacting so many around them. We have heard those voices elsewhere. We heard them in Noah Argamani, rescued hostage, who wrote just last week, as Israel's ground operations in Gaza City intensified, how worried she was for the remaining hostages. As a former hostage, I know exactly what these moments feel like: the booming blasts, the gunfire, the walls shaking, the helplessness and despair that take over. The emotions come rushing back all at once, and it is unbearable. Right now, I fear deeply for Avi Natan's life. I fear for the lives of all the hostages. I saw my friend die before my eyes in captivity, and I cannot accept that it should happen to anyone else ever again. We must not let this continue. We must do everything in our power to bring everyone home. As we know, Noah was rescued from the Nusrat refugee camp on June 8th, 2024, along with Shlomi Ziv, Andrei Kozlov, and Almog Meir-Jan. It's just over a month ago, Almog was with us here and spoke from this very bima. He spoke about his time in captivity, the experience of his rescue, and his advocacy work over the past year. If you missed that conversation, it's still available on the live stream page of our website, and I encourage everyone to watch. When Almog was with us, 2 moments in particular stood out to me. At dinner, before his talk, I looked down and noticed his bracelet. It read simply, expletive Hamas. You can use your imagination, you're probably right. I told him that I liked the bracelet and have had that phrase in my mind for 2 years as well. and he explained that someone had given him the bracelet the very day he returned home, and he hasn't taken it off since. How could he? After 246 days in captivity, living with daily fear and humiliation, how could he not come away with anger? How could he not carry a cry for justice, a demand for accountability? That bracelet was Malkeinu, the sovereign, the judge, the voice of justice that insists evil cannot be ignored. But then came the second moment. At one point during dinner, we raised our glasses to say L'chaim. I've celebrated L'chaims many times and with many of you, and I'm happy to do so many more times in the future. But this one was different. When Almog said L'chaim, I really thought about what that word meant to life. Not just a casual toast before a sip of wine, but a profound expression of gratitude for the gift of being alive, for the chance to walk free, to stand here, to begin again. That was Avinu, mercy, tenderness, and love. Both truths at once, both voices at once, justice and mercy, Avinu and Malkeinu. That is what it means to be a Jew in 5786, to live in the paradox, to hold justice and mercy together, to stand for sovereignty and love, to hear the cry of our captives, and to raise a glass for life. And through this all, we continue to stand with Israel, with her soldiers who risk their lives, with her families who grieve, with her people who live through war while yearning for peace. We do not walk away. We do not give up on our Jewish state, on our homeland. Even as we embrace the calls for mercy, we hold on to justice. We have not lost our hope for these past 2,000 years. We don't plan to lose it now. Avinu Malkeinu, Shema Kolenu, hear our voice. Avinu Malkeinu, send a complete healing to your people. Avinu Malkeinu, tear up the evil decrees against us. Avinu Malkeinu, act for the sake of those who were killed for your name. Avinu Malkeinu, act with your abundant compassion. Avinu Malkeinu, bless us and all of Israel with a good year and a year of peace. When we recite and sing Avinu Malkeinu over these next 10 days, let us remember we do not need to choose one truth over another. We hold them together because in holding both, we find hope. Hope that even in our pain, there will be mercy. Hope that even in our brokenness, we still choose life. Hope that even as we long for justice, we pursue peace. Am Yisrael Chai, the people of Israel live. We live in justice, in mercy, in paradox, in hope, in tikva. Please rise as we'll sing Hatikva together.
Kol od balevav penima nefesh Yehudi homia ulfa'ate mizrach kadima ayin letzion Sophia od lavata tikvatenu hatikva bat shenot al payim liyotam chofshi be'artzenu Eretz Zion, Yerushalayim, lichotam chofshi be'artzenu, Eretz Zion, Yerushalayim.
year 5786 bring us health, happiness, justice, and mercy, and peace. Amen. Amen. Shana Tova. Shana Tova. May be seated.